what role India is seeking in Afghanistan?
India and Afghanistan are two independent countries, sovereign countries. They can have the relations of their choice. They can expand their engagement, economic engagement. Pakistan-Afghanistan relations are not moving well. Pakistan-Afghanistan relations continue to face problems.
When India increases its presence in Afghanistan, that is not good for Pakistan, actually. And there have been scores of reports in the past which has established that India was supporting, providing military training, providing weapons, providing support to different terrorist organizations in Afghanistan so that they may carry out subversive acts against Pakistan.
Very true. During the period from 2001 to 2021 in particular, when US and NATO forces were present, so the setup or regime in Afghanistan was such that it was providing a favorable treatment to India.
Exactly.
It allowed Indian assets to be placed in near or along Afghanistan-Pakistan border. I think that is a matter of worry. Afghan Taliban cannot be now treated as a group who had some kind of linkages with Pakistan.
How long this interim setup in Kabul will continue, and when there is going to be an elected government as a result of elections?
It is very difficult to say as to what will be the process which Afghan Taliban would like to take forward in terms of constitutional process, in terms of human rights issues, in terms of girls' education or women access to work. These are the issues which international community is trying to discuss with them.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Hello and welcome to program Insight in V News English. Dear viewers, Afghanistan is continuously in the spotlight, not for positive things, but for bad things. The things which are detrimental to regional and global peace and security, particularly detrimental to Pakistan's peace and security. Recently, there is an important development that 35th report of Analytical Support and Sanctions Monitoring Team of the United Nations submitted its report in response to Resolution 2734/2024 concerning ISIL, Daesh, Al-Qaeda, and associated individuals and entities. And this exclusive document, available with V News English, confirms Pakistan's concern regarding the basis of various international terror organizations in Afghanistan, which are posing not only security threats to Pakistan, but also to the region and also to the world. And if we go just 2-3 days beyond this particular development, there have been high-level contact between Afghan Taliban and Indian officials. Indian Foreign Secretary held in-depth talks with acting Afghan Foreign Minister. And after the talks, Kabul issued a statement saying that India is a strategic partner for Afghanistan. What does this mean? Why Afghan Taliban are seeking greater role of Indians in Afghanistan? What is the future of Afghanistan in terms of peace and security, and how Pakistan will overcome this challenge? To discuss this all, we are fortunate to have with us former Pakistan's ambassador to Afghanistan, Mansoor Ahmed Khan, who keeps a very close eye, despite retirement from the service, as a senior analyst, as a security expert. Ambassador Mansoor Ahmed Khan sahab, thank you so much for joining Insight in V News English. And I will begin with this particular development that took place in Dubai. There have been high-level talks between Indians and Afghan Taliban. Afghan acting foreign minister participated in the talks. India was led by its foreign secretary. So the question is, what role India is seeking in Afghanistan?
The thing is that we should look at the broader situation and the ground realities that have prevailed in Afghanistan in recent years. since the Taliban takeover in August 2021 in Afghanistan, and now it is already more than 3 years, Afghan Taliban have consolidated their control over Afghanistan. Afghan interim government is now today more established than it was maybe a couple of years ago. It has some economic challenges, but it has established its writ over entire Afghanistan. And it is also now engaging. In last 3 years, we have seen it is gradually expanding its engagement with all its neighbors as well as with regional partners, regional countries, and even countries outside the region. So gradually it is trying to convey a message to the rest of the world that Afghanistan is war has now ended in Afghanistan. The war which had been there for past 50 years in the form of Afghan jihad, later in the Taliban insurgency, and now that no foreign forces are present in Afghanistan, Afghanistan is totally under control of the current government. Afghan Taliban are actually custodians of the state of Afghanistan at the moment. So that message has been, I think, being sent by them, and this message is also being received by many countries. Before I come to India, I think we can, if we look at how Afghanistan is engaging with the rest of its neighbors. Unfortunately, with Pakistan, there have been tensions because of mainly the cross-border terrorism, TTP, PLA, or some elements of Daesh. But apart from Pakistan, Afghan interim government has been engaging or increasing its engagement, expanding its engagement with all other neighbors, Central Asian countries where it used to have issues in the past, but now they are keeping aside the political issues and engaging into economic cooperation. With Iran also, despite ideological differences, Shia-Sunni differences, but two countries are expanding their economic cooperation. China is also trying to increase its foothold, its footprint in Afghanistan in economic projects. And now Afghanistan has actually now this recent meeting which you are referring to between acting Indian Foreign Secretary and interim Afghan Foreign Minister. I think this is a very notable development. But if we look at the implications from Pakistan's point of view, I think Pakistan should not be swayed by this development, should not be too worried by this development, because India and Afghanistan are two independent countries, sovereign countries. They can have the relations of their choice. They can expand their engagement, economic engagement, and whatever is possible as the two states engage. The more worrying situation for Pakistan is that Pakistan, which has natural leverages with Afghanistan, Pakistan, which has more deep-rooted relationship bonded in history, in culture, in common border with Afghanistan, Afghanistan relations are not moving well. Pakistan-Afghanistan relations continue to face problems. And the moment Pakistan and Afghanistan are able to address their own relations, I think India-Afghanistan relationship will be important for them, but will lose that significance with which we are referring to it today, or analysts are referring to it today. So I think more important for Pakistan and for Afghanistan is to come back to their natural relationship between the two countries, try to address the issues of their mutual concern. Pakistan has serious issues with regard to, our security personnel are being targeted, our installations are being targeted, our people are being kidnapped and molested. So I think all these issues, cross-border security, as well as the economic and people-to-people relations between the two countries. So I think your question about this development of the relations between India and Afghanistan have been engaging with each other during the 2 decades when US and NATO was present in Afghanistan. India was receiving special treatment from those governments. But despite that, Pakistan remains the most closest neighbor of Afghanistan. And for long-term peace and stability and for regional economic integration, stabilizing the relations between Pakistan and Afghanistan is of fundamental importance for both countries, for both peoples. So that is my take on this.
That's true. You also responded that it's Afghanistan and India both are independent countries, and they may establish any partnership, anything like that. But Pakistan's concern is when India increases its presence in Afghanistan, that is not good for Pakistan, actually. And there have been scores of reports in the past which has established that India was supporting, providing military training, providing weapons, providing support to different terrorist organizations in Afghanistan so that they may carry out subversive acts against Pakistan. So it was in that backdrop that Pakistan used to remain concerned
Yes.
about growing Indian presence in Afghanistan. And while you were present in Kabul
Yes.
before the Kabul regime change in August 2021, before that, it was quite evident that how Ashraf Ghani regime was closely aligned with Afghan intelligence. Ambassador Saab.
Yes, that is, I think, very true. During the period from 2001 to 2021, in particular, when US and NATO forces were present, so the setup or regime in Afghanistan was such that it was providing a favorable treatment to India.
Exactly.
It allowed Indian assets to be placed in near or along Afghanistan-Pakistan border. All the support that the terrorist entities which were undertaking terrorism, like TTP or any other BLA or any other entities, they were receiving support from and investment from the Indians in a big way. And even Indian National Security Advisor Ajit Doval had once also hinted to that, or more than once actually had hinted to that they are going to pay Pakistan through this border. So I think that is a matter of worry, but that worry arises because the basic point of concern of that worry, from where this worry emanates, is that even during those years, Pakistan and governments in Pakistan and government in Afghanistan did not have harmonious or close relations or close engagement with each other, institutional engagement with each other. After Taliban came into power, our expectation and our effort actually was, I was there as you have mentioned, our effort was that we should establish close communication, close institutional engagement to address these threats which Pakistan has, or if there are any threats or concerns for the Afghan side, and move this border away from the war of past or militancy or terrorism that has been prevailing in this region for past several years. Now, this is at this moment, again, when India and Afghanistan are establishing or trying to revive their partnership, the main concern for Pakistan will remain that if Pakistan-Afghanistan equation doesn't improve, then of course it will not augur well for Pakistan, because Indian presence in Afghanistan, Indian assistance to Afghanistan sometimes can take those type of forms or those type of that kind of shape, where it can be involved in supporting these kind of groups. Already we have a concern that these groups are the TTP's commanders or TTP's elements are present in Afghanistan, and they are finding shelter and refuge. And if in more engagement with India, of course, because of its track record will mean more support for these groups which have an anti-state, anti-Pakistan state agenda. So I think that is why it is important. My effort has been always to highlight, in my opinion and in my analysis, that we need to work specially on reviving our relations with Afghanistan. The whole of relations, the full spectrum of relations between Afghanistan and Pakistan. That is, it should involve security cooperation or security engagement on how to deal with these groups. We have differences with each other. Between Afghan Taliban and Pakistan government or Pakistani institutions, we have differences as to how to handle these. But apart from that, movement of people across the border and movement of common people, Afghans and Pakistanis, trade and transit issues, regional connectivity issues. We have to increase our connectivity with Afghanistan, Quetta Kandahar connectivity, Peshawar Torkham connectivity, because we have to now take this region out of the military or militancy it has been, to an economic, landscape, to regional connectivity and regional economic integration. So
to a trade corridor, to a people-to-people context.
People, yes. So we have to we have to bring a fundamental change in, how the landscape of the region has been, how this border has become infested with militancy, terrorism, jihad, or so many other negative tendencies. So I think it is important, and that is where I think Pakistan will have to take an initiative. Despite challenges we have with the Afghan government, we will again take an initiative to make some kind of overtures for restoring this relationship, for reviving this relationship, for bringing Taliban government to realize that the kind of momentum that has been there in Pakistan-Afghanistan relations, it has gone into a negative direction, and let's address the factors and bring it into a positive direction.
Ambassador Mansoor Saab, before Taliban took over Afghanistan in August 2021, before that, Pakistan continued to provide moral support, diplomatic support. Most of the Afghan Taliban leaders, they have been operating from Pakistan. Pakistan, as a goodwill gesture, provided them space, diplomatic support, and Pakistan also continued support to Taliban's Doha office as well. So finally, it led to an agreement between Afghan Taliban and Americans, the historic Doha Accord. Yes. But actually, since you are a senior analyst now, and you have been watching these all things as an ambassador, what went wrong? Pakistan was expecting that Taliban, after taking over Kabul, will be sending positive signals to Pakistan, will be close friends of Pakistan. But instead of behaving like brothers, like friends, they are behaving like enemies. What went wrong, actually?
I think there has been a basic deficiency in Pakistan-Afghanistan relations. I mean, if we analyze the past 5 or 6 decades, so since Afghan Jihad had started, the relationship between the two countries had not been purely a state-to-state relationship. It has been somehow related to groups. In 1980s, Afghan Mujahideen were fighting in Afghanistan, and since there was a US-Soviet rivalry, and the jihad which was being fought, it established relations between Pakistan government and Pakistan security institutions with Afghan Mujahideen. Similarly, when US and NATO forces were present in Afghanistan, this relationship dynamics developed between Pakistan and Afghan Taliban. And as you said, that during if you look at the 50 years, Pakistan has sheltered millions of Afghan refugees. Afghan refugees have been living very independently and openly in Pakistan. I don't think any other country has provided that kind of space to Afghans. And Afghans acknowledge that. There have been so many other areas also, like in facilitating Doha peace process, because Pakistan wanted a political solution of the resolution of the Afghan conflict. So Pakistan facilitated in whatever way it was possible to the Afghan peace process in Doha. And I think United States and Western countries also acknowledge or also recognize Pakistan's crucial role. But now, after the change in Afghanistan in August 2021, that was a defining change in that sense that after 5 decades, no foreign military presence is there in Afghanistan. Therefore, Pakistan and Afghanistan have to work hard for taking their relationship to state. That is, now Afghanistan is a state, an independent state. We recognize it as an independent state. We recognize Afghanistan's sovereignty and territorial integrity. And this state is now controlled by Afghan Taliban. So Afghan Taliban cannot be now treated as a group who had some kind of linkages with Pakistan, but they are actually custodians
No,
of the Afghan state.
exactly.
And
Representing a state, exactly.
they have also to Afghan Taliban, they have also to take care of so many other dimensions of Afghanistan state, Afghanistan's public perception, public aspirations, and all those things. So I think they have a different role now. Therefore, what is required, what was required in last 3 years, and what is required even now, is that we somehow, by we I mean both countries, somehow appreciate this or realize the quantum of change that has taken place and go to a state-to-state relationship. And when you talk about a state-to-state relationship, then it is not that we had provided you so much facilitation, so you should have you should be indebted or by gratitude to us, because the states interact with each other based on their interests and based on their contemporary interests, not that the two states had supported each other in the past. Yes, the support for each other is a factor, but states will actually be looking at their own interest, and Afghanistan, of course, is looking into its own interests in terms of engaging with other neighbors as well as with other regional partners and even India. But Pakistan, I think, has to, from my point of view, Pakistan should not attach too much of importance to the contexts which are being developed between India and Afghanistan. If Pakistan and Afghanistan are able to address their own relationship, Pakistan remains still one of Afghanistan's neighbor who has most leverages in Afghanistan than any other neighbor of Afghanistan or any other country in the world. And these leverages are actually positive leverages, people-to-people leverages, trade leverages, connectivity leverages. So I think we will have to come to state-to-state relations. Whichever government is there today, it is Taliban government. Tomorrow, or after a few years, if there is any other government in Afghanistan, we need to have state-to-state engagement with Afghanistan. And second element is people-to-people engagement, how the two countries are connected with each other. And that is why I think an economic agenda will be really important for the two countries.
Ambassador Mansoor Ahmed Khan Sahab, this current administration is called as an interim government. So it is, of course, an interim administration. It's an acting, all acting ministers and acting deputy prime minister. And so tell us that how long this caretaker or interim setup in Kabul will continue, because it doesn't represent the aspirations and the sentiments of the different segments of Afghan society. And they promise that there will be a new constitution, they will hold elections, but it's 3 years. So what is your take that how long this interim setup in Kabul will continue, and when there is going to be an elected government as a result of elections?
Yes, this is a very interesting question, because it is an Afghan on 15th after 15th August 2021 takeover in September 2021, when Afghan Taliban formed this government. They have called it Afghan interim government, and it has since remained Afghan interim government. But if you go back to their government in 1990s, for 5 years, from 1996 to 2001, it remained as an ad hoc or interim government then also.
When Burhanuddin Rabbani Sahab was the president, exactly.
No, Burhanuddin Rabbani Sahab was president before Taliban, but when Taliban government came, under Mullah Umar, for 5 years, it remained as an interim or ad hoc setup. So it is very difficult to say as to when this Afghan Taliban will be able to develop a consensus within themselves and with other Afghan political groups to have a constitution. After the Taliban takeover, some of Taliban ministers had actually indicated that they have plans to work on the constitution, but so far they have not been able to devise the constitution. And similarly, there remain differences on as to as to what will be the role of political parties or political groups of participation, other non-Taliban entities into politics or into government. So, and these have been the issues which international community has also been constantly taking up with them, and these also remain the reasons for actually non-recognition of Afghan Taliban government too. But I think while we can have discussion about these issues, how they can be resolved, but they fundamentally, when we discuss, when the two states, when the other states go and discuss issues with Afghan government's representatives or Afghan Taliban, they have a point that these are our internal domestic matters. These are internal issues to Afghanistan, and Afghans would resolve them. So I think in bilateral relations, while the countries can actually underscore importance of these issues in their interaction, but then finally these issues, whether it is women's rights, human rights, media freedoms, or political participation of other groups, these will have to be finally, I think, very realistically speaking, these issues will have to be resolved or will have to be addressed by Afghan government themselves or Afghans themselves. So I think it is very difficult to say as to what will be the process which Afghan Taliban would like to take forward in terms of constitutional process, in terms of human rights issues, in terms of girls' education or women access to work. These are the issues which international community is trying to discuss with them. So we can continue to have, in our own bilateral relations also, we can continue to have some discussion with them. But again, these will have to be addressed by Afghan government, Afghan Taliban, and Afghans actually themselves.
Recently, Pakistan hosted 2 days international conference on girls' education. And there was no ministerial level representation in that particular conference. And most of the foreign delegates, including the global activist and leader for girls' education, Malala Yousafzai, strongly criticized Afghanistan regime. Likewise, several other leaders also criticized Afghanistan for not fulfilling their international commitments, which they made to promote girls' education. So if girls' education in Afghanistan is not promoted, so in the days to come or in the years to come, we see darkness in Afghanistan. Your take, please.
Yeah. Girls' education will continues to remain an issue in the last 3.5 years when Afghan Taliban took over, and for at least 1 year I was there after their takeover and formation of government. I was there, and in all the interaction Afghans were having with us, with our government, or were having with other governments and larger international community, United Nations and other international organizations. These were the main points of discussion as to how to move forward. I mean, the international community was trying to convince them to show flexibility on inclusivity, which is how other Afghans, non-Talibans, can participate in governance and politics, girls' education, women access to work, opportunities for women to work, and media freedoms and these kind of issues. But unfortunately, it is a fact that there has not been much progress. No flexibility has been shown by the Afghan Taliban or Afghan interim government on these issues. But still, then international community has also finally left these issues to Afghanistan itself, because
decide and handle.
It is something which is related to Afghan nation. Afghan nation is, of course, suffering because parts of Afghan nation are suffering because of not addressing these issues in a satisfactory manner, and Afghans will have to find a way of how to move forward on that. International community can play a supportive role, can also give them a good advice. But finally, it is the nations themselves who have to take action on these issues.
Mansoor Saab, one important aspect, there is change of political administration in Washington from 20th of January. President-elect Trump will take over, and he has already made commitments that he will promote peace, he will end Gaza war, he will end Ukrainian war, he will take some initiatives in different parts of the world wherever conflicts are there. Since August 2021, Americans left Afghanistan. They have abandoned Afghanistan. And now these UN reports have confirmed the presence of international terrorist organizations, strong footprints on Afghanistan soil. And the presence of these terror organizations mean that they are a threat to the global peace and security. So how the new American administration led by Republicans, do you think they will take some interest in Afghanistan, or they will continue to ignore Afghanistan?
Look, President Trump from the beginning has been an anti-war or no-war president. When
Exactly.
he became president for the first time from 2017 to 2020 period, he had, in his election manifesto, he had indicated that he would withdraw US and NATO forces from Afghanistan. And he nearly did that because he, during his period, decisive policy decisions were taken by the US administration. And by 2020, when he lost election in November 2020 and left administration on 20th January 2021, Afghanistan, the US and NATO forces were actually on the verge of leaving Afghanistan. A few months delay was there because of the US elections and change of administration in the US. But Trump had taken the process to that level where only few thousand US forces and NATO forces had been left in Afghanistan, and there was no option for the next administration, that is Biden administration, to allow or to continue the stay of US forces there. And Biden himself was also personally in favor of withdrawal of US and NATO forces from Afghanistan. So even if there was any pressure from US establishment to prolong US forces stay, the US Biden administration's decision was also that no, we should withdraw, and they withdrew. Withdrawal, unfortunately, was the last phase of withdrawal or evacuation was a bit messy. And I think our President Trump, in his recent campaign, when he has been re-elected, in this campaign, at points he had indicated, or people who will be in part of his cabinet have indicated, or his advisors have indicated, that they will be taking stock of what happened wrong in this withdrawal process. We may see some kind of review of, or bringing those people who were responsible to, some committees of US administration or US Congress. Now, beyond that, Trump's main agenda is economic. Trump is going to have, is likely to be engaged in tariff, wars with China or with EU or with Canada and with other countries. And his main slogan is "Make America Great Again." So I don't think he is likely to pay any great attention or any big amount of attention to what is happening in Afghanistan. Of course, if terrorism or terrorist groups try to destabilize the region in such a manner that they become a threat for the outside world, and particularly for the US, then it will be a different thing. But I think in the current situation, where Taliban government has also been able to keep security conditions under satisfactory level, in Afghanistan, so there is US is not likely to US involvement or indulgence is not likely to take place. Or even if it takes place, it will be at a very minor level in terms of some counter-terrorism support and that kind of thing. And you also must not forget that Trump administration and Trump's special envoy Zalmay Khalilzad had negotiated peace deal with Afghan Taliban. So there are channels of communication, channels of engagement between Afghan Taliban and the Trump or Trump's advisors. So I think we will have to see as to how things move forward. But I don't think Afghanistan, because Trump's main focus, since he became president for the first time in his first tenure, was to move out of Afghanistan. And that goal has been achieved. So I don't think he will be inclined towards any kind of re-engagement in terms of military approach or even and in terms of economic issues. I think US-China rivalry can be seen more visibly in Afghanistan and in other parts of the world where the two powers will be contested.
Lastly, I would like to seek your comments. What are the options available in Pakistan in 2025? Of course, in the backdrop of such reports that Pakistani Army Chief General Asim Munir, Pakistani political leadership led by Prime Minister, they have made it clear that there will be no compromise on Pakistan's peace and security, and decisive action will be taken against this Fitna al-Khawarij or TTP, and they are continue to operate from Afghanistan. So what are the options available? Diplomatic options exhausted. Pakistan in last year carried out some of the strikes against certain targets along with Pakistan-Afghanistan border. So what do you think precisely in 2025, how Pakistan will tackle this challenge?
I think TTP is a very complex challenge, and they pose a very serious threat to Pakistan's security and Pakistani people. The issue is that TTP have presence in pockets or in areas in Pakistan, and then when some of them they escape from our security forces operations, they are also able to take shelter in Afghanistan because of the porous border between the two countries, and also because the relations they have with Afghan Taliban. So I think this kind of challenge can only be addressed that if Pakistan devises and implements a strong and robust counter-terrorism strategy for its own areas, I mean the areas inside Pakistan. And with Afghanistan, I think it will be important for Pakistan to go into its overall relations with Afghanistan, having channels of engagement. And
should be continued. All channels of engagement should be continued.
No, but as you know, all the channels of engagement should continue. But engagement with Taliban in the past has been mostly through security channels because of the past, whatever had happened in this region in past 2, 3, 4, 5 decades. But now Pakistan should come towards a political strategy. And political strategy is that Pakistan's political leadership has to take lead in terms of approaching Afghan leadership and Afghan Taliban leadership, because they are they are controlling Afghanistan state. And if there is Pakistan's interests are being hurt because of anything in Afghanistan, it is the responsibility of Pakistan's political leadership, whichever government is there in Pakistan, irrespective of that. Pakistan's political leadership has to come forward. War in Afghanistan is over. Therefore, channels of engagement should be political, and political leadership should play that role. Political leadership in the past had relegated this role to the security, had left this role to the security. But now this is the responsibility of, I think, the political leadership and political government, civilian government,
and handle politically.
To handle this issue politically.
One last thing, in the last military briefing by DG ISPR, it was indirectly also said, rather questioned, that it was who negotiated the return of these banned TTP. So I think you were present in
Yes,
that
I was,
in the presence of a high-profile Pakistani official. So, so what happened actually? these TTP people at that time were negotiated. They were brought back to Pakistan. This is what now Pakistani government strongly believes, that mistake, rather blunder committed by the PTI government in
Actually, no,
2021.
actually, yes, I was there, and what had happened was that since Pakistan had serious concerns about TTP issue, and Pakistan had taken it up with them after Taliban takeover, so Afghan Taliban had actually advised Pakistan's government and Pakistan's security institutions that they are going to facilitate a dialogue between Pakistani security institutions and TTP, so that to find a political resolution of this conflict or this issue. So several rounds were took place, and they were actually handled by our security officials, because at government level, formal government presence was not there in these contexts, because normally, because of the nature of such issues, these issues are handled by the security people, and these 2 or 3 rounds of talks took place between security officials and TTP's leaders. They were facilitated by Afghan Taliban leadership at a very high level. And but then the differences between the positions of the two sides, that is Pakistan and the TTP, was so wide, and the TTP's demands were actually
So high.
are not acceptable or not flexible. They were not flexible on their demands, and these rounds of talks did not yield any positive outcome, and they ended by the end of 2022. As for since there was no final agreement reached between the two sides, so as for what were kind of people who were brought, or what were the people who
settled
were
again in Pakistan
and settled here, it was not it was not in our knowledge, and it is maybe security people who were at that time involved
might be in better
parlays in these talks, they would have any knowledge about that. But I think the effort was that since Afghan Taliban were of the view that Pakistan has to find a political solution of the TTP, therefore Pakistan had also responded positively by going into these rounds of talks. But finally, they did not yield any result, and we have seen
there was no agreement.
No. The two sides were not close to any agreement. That I.
Thank you so much indeed. Please conclude.
Although I was not formally part of these, because government was not formally part of these issues were being informally dealt between security officials and some of the TTP leaders who were present there. But TTP commanders were present there. So it means that they are present in Afghanistan.
Thank you so much indeed for providing extremely insightful picture of what is happening in Afghanistan, what challenges Afghanistan will give to Pakistan in 2025, and what options are available with Pakistan. Thank you so much once again for participating in our program, Insight in V News English. And dear viewers, till our next program, goodbye and Allah Hafiz from studios.
Thank you, Mateen Haider.